Cheerio! So, my idea for Dr. Inglar is that she develops webinars that happen to be on specific topics. Set webinars to have a way that allows people to be able to get basically what would be like a multi-use platform for being able to do an electronic purchase. So like you can purchase for a practice, similar to what somebody would get for software. You either have a single use or a multi-use for, let's say, like Windows. You can get Windows for an office or Windows just for a single computer. If you end up getting a webinar that's that way and it's attached to the subject matter for a particular book, then you end up being able to have something that is much more likely to be picked up in private practice, because the private practice is going to want the webinar mainly. You can sell the webinar separate, or you can have somebody who gets a bundle where they purchase one electronic copy that includes the webinar, or you can do it without it. But these webinars, if they happen to be sent out there, especially if you include little snippets that happen to be up on a website, I don't know who would do that. It's like super cool advertising, because everybody else clicks on books and there's nothing really there. But then imagine that you have like full video up on Amazon of your book, because that's essentially what the webinar is hey, let me give you an in-depth guide to how to use this book. So you end up getting extra fees that way. Now, obviously, since Dr. Inglar would be doing the majority of it, and the main feature for 5M would be the fact that it leads people back to the book, it would be a much higher percentage revenue for Ryan than a typical book deal. However, I'm assuming you don't want people just copying this video content and sharing it all over, which, although it would be good word of mouth, it'd be better if you made money. Why? Because we like to make money. And we want to control content, because that's also part of what you do. So if you ended up having these webinars and you do that, then some of the webinars would also have the option for being able to do a Q&A live, which would give the opportunity for a higher fee. Again, the additional fee for the live Q&A. I would still take a percentage as Wiley Blackwell. That's going to surprise Ryan. She thought I would be all for Ryan on that. But no, if you're managing it, you get some of the money. But it would be small. That would probably be like a 5% of whatever the fee is for the differential between that. But just being able to mention that that's there, you're then advertising for Ryan, you got to get at least something back for that. See what I'm saying? But once you end up having that webinar, it would be kind of smart for Ryan to end up developing these webinars for any of the products that she happens to have with you, so that you end up with video content which increases your exposure within the internet search engines, because you end up with video content that happens to be generated for all of your products, as well as print, which increases your organic rankings whenever anybody happens to search on a particular topic. If you end up including certain snippets for free that pop up on things like YouTube, Instagram, any of the other social media sites, you can end up having a lot more exposure. This would end up giving you a much bigger market. If you can end up having individual practices worldwide wanting to be able to purchase the books because of the webinars, which is actually typically how that they look at being able to do education, they only end up needing to buy one webinar per practice, or if it's a group of practices, they can still just buy the one. Sure, you could try and be a penny pincher and say that this group of practices that happens to have 10 or 15, but if you do it based on area, so that if somebody happens to have franchises spread out around a, say, 1,500 mile range, it only works within a specific area. If it's web-based, you can do that based on distance, which would be my suggestion, as opposed to trying doing a counting how many instances happen to be up and running. The purpose being to be able to spread throughout geographical locations, as opposed to trying to be able to penny pinch it, which isn't the smart way when looking at the webinar. Otherwise, you're just going to try and find workarounds, and it makes it more worthwhile for them to figure out how to hack your system. So hopefully that gives you some fun business ideas, and I look forward to making you more money again sometime soon. Oh yes, just in case Ryan forgets, since Ryan owns all of the content that she is creating for her university, or should I say Ryan U, she has several more book proposals that she has forgotten to tell you about, that by the end of this particular calendar year will be like 90% written already. So remember to ask her about that. Thanks. Bye, Sarah.